Excellent. You're good over here, Administrative Chief? Perfect. Without further ado, I'd like to call to order the Little Compton School Department Wednesday, November 13th, 2024 regular meeting. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is over Mark's shoulder. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We could all have a moment of reflection for our troops and those in harm's way. I thank you all. All right, consent agenda. I know we have to pull items 2.1 and myself, Sue, and Mike can vote on the September 11th meeting, and then 2.2, myself, Mark, and Michael can vote on. Do I have a motion to approve items 2.3 to 2.7 of the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve 2.3 through 2.7.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of approving the consent agenda? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries 4-0. Item 2.1, I will take a motion from either Sue or Michael to approve the minutes from the September 11th, 2024 meeting of the school committee.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from September 11th, 2024 meeting.
I second it.
Excellent. All in favor? Aye. The motion carries 3-0 with approval of the minutes. And then I will take a motion from either Michael or Mark to approve the school committee meeting minutes for October the 9th.
I have a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting on October 9th, 2024.
Second that.
Excellent. All in favor? Aye. Michael? Did you?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. Motion carries 3-0. Michael, could you hand me if there are any public comments? I didn't see. Okay, Dr. Andy Ryan, quick reminder before we do public comment, Jennifer has the minutes right here. You have 3 minutes to, we have a timer, 100%. So you'll have 3 minutes to ask your public comment. Your time will start after you state your name and your address. You can ask a question and or to have something on a future agenda. Please stand, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Andy Ryan, 40 Paget Brook Road. Yeah, I was just hoping to get a little clarification on the school committee's role in the letter that was in the editor on October 31st. And also I would like some clarification on the books in the library and the school committee's role in assessing the books that, I wrote a letter in the for the paper in mid-October, so bringing this issue to light. And then the Republicans denied this in mailing and also in a newspaper ad. And then this article showed up in the newspaper basically stating that there were 23 books in the library that this author brought up. So I would like if I could get some comment from the school committee as to the role of school committee members on this issue. Thank you.
I mean, we have a library policy in place. Are you asking if what's the direct question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm curious if school committee members did go to the library and assess the books directly.
Are we able to comment on this? Because
I would advise the committee not to engage in any discussions that aren't posted on the agenda. However, a direct question, if you want to respond and provide information to the members of the public, you can do that. But I'm advising the committee not to engage in any discussion among yourselves.
Okay. I'm willing to state 2 things. One, we do have a library policy in place in which this committee or myself, Sue, Michael, Hannah Ayotte, and Megan Gonzalez approved a library policy in which members of the public could ask for books to be reviewed either for removal and for placement in the library. And then in terms of reaching out to the library or being in the library myself, I have never done so other than when I visit with Duke and open library time, typically during the summer. I don't know if, I mean, Mark, I think this is a little bit before your time, but you're happy to answer if you'd like.
I don't have any comments at this time.
And Michael and Sue, if you have any comments.
I'll speak up. You wrote about me. We've never had tea together. We've never broken bread. I had a parent reach out to me and ask me, do we have books in our library that deal with pride issues or transgender issues? I said, I have no idea. So I asked, how do we find that out? I was given a website, and it's on our school thing now that we have a library policy. It's on our page, it's thing. So I got it and I typed it in and things came up. So I reached out to our librarian. I know Karen very well, have known her for years, and I wrote her a nice email and I said, hey, a parent's asked me about books. I'd like to come in and see what the content is of these books. Didn't hear from her. I asked her again, didn't hear from her. Lori sent me an email and she said, I understand you want to come in and review and see some books. And I said, yeah, parents asked me a question. I'd like to see what the content is. I don't know about it. And so we went back and forth. We finally agreed on a spot and I went in and she was there and Carol Cedric was there. And Lori said, well, you're welcome to go and search any books you want. And I said, well, I kind of stunk at the Dewey Decimal System growing up. So if you would get me the books, I'd appreciate it. And I had my list. Lori had hers. Lori went around, found the books, and she pointed over to where the kindergartner stuff was. And she said, you're welcome to go over there and look, and I'll bring stuff to you. So she and Carol did their thing and went around and brought books and put them on the table. And I sat on the floor and looked at the kindergarten stuff, and I found some books. And I read the ones there. And then we got to the table and we had conversation. And I was very honest with Lori about how I felt and things that parents were concerned about. And she said, what books would you like removed from library? And I said to her, and she slid a paper across, and I said, what's this for? And she said, it's for you to write down the books you want removed from library. And I said to her, I did not come here to remove books from the library. I came here to review content. And that was the conversation. So the fact I find interesting is that you knew that I went to the library and you accused me in the newspaper, which I never even read, someone sent it to me, of wanting to remove books from the library. I find offensive that, and then I find that the only way you could have known is either you told them, because I told you what I had done, because I felt out of respect for you as the chair, I should tell you what I had done, because I had done that without telling anybody. I did it on my own. And I did it because a parent reached out to me and I was trying to do my due diligence. And so either Lori told you or you told him. So don't ask me where you're getting your intel from, but I never asked for books to be removed. So all the hoopla is me. And I did not, and I even told Sean what I had done. I went up and I met him in Providence and I said, hey, this is what I've done. And I said, good, bad, or ugly, I'm just letting you know. So I was very truthful with everybody about what I did and why I did it. And it was because a parent asked. I thought that was our job. I have parents reaching out to me all the time. I have parents call me, email me, stop me if they bump into me. I don't go out much, but if we bump into each other, people ask me questions. And I try to do I thought that was my job. If a parent has a question, and I encourage all the parents all the time, come to the meeting, speak up. I said, my voice is worth nothing. I go, I don't have a vote. It's nothing. I go, I can speak up and try to be a voice for you. I said, but it will mean more if you come to the meetings and you speak up on your own, or if you write a letter. I said, and I encourage people all the time to do that. If they don't do it, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And so, yes, I did go to the library to help a parent out and got back to that parent and said, this is what I read. And here's a conversation I had with Lori. And the rest is in your hands. I go, you guys have to decide what you want to do with the library. It's pretty simple. It wasn't anything, no drama.
I mean, I can't speak for Lori, but I did not tell Andy that you came to the library.
Okay, great.
And,
I appreciate that.
and I don't believe Lori did, but she can speak to that.
Absolutely not.
And in an effort to protect your due diligence, can I speak upon the request, Sean?
I would advise you not.
Okay. I'll just leave it at that. We can speak with, I can speak with you offline about, but it did not come from myself or Sue. And I do know that you did visit the library during school hours, which is in the public eye. So it wasn't done. I mean, anybody could have seen you. So to assume that myself or Lori released
Okay. Nope,
school
fair enough.
committee information.
I didn't
I'm
bump
just
into
making
any
clear.
adults.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting. Anyways, hope that answers your question.
Perfect. We can move on. Sue, thank you for your being thorough and responding. Dr. Ryan, thank you for your comment. We will move on to item 4.1, the curriculum update. I believe this is Principal McKinnon.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Chairperson Howard. Just a couple of updates. I'm going to first start off with our ELA curriculum, which is called ELA curriculum. It is a RIDE-approved English language arts curriculum. We are currently in year 4 of that curriculum. They started in September of 21, I believe it was. I feel positive, like listening to the teachers talk about it. I think it prepares our students very well. Our ELA coordinator, Jen Giles, will be meeting with RIDE literacy team on January 9th. And we'll be meeting in 2 separate groups with grades 3, 4, 5 teachers, particularly our ELA teachers, and our 6, 7, 8 teachers. And they'll be talking to our teachers about, some of the writing expectations that are on the RIDEcast examinations, just again, ways to improve. Another thing that Ms. Giles is doing, she and another teacher will be meeting with some educators from a local community, looking at sharing ideas and ways to improve writing. Cindy Pino is our math coordinator. We have 2 different curriculums, Eureka Math Squared, K through 5. Last year, we also piloted Eureka Math Squared for our students in grades 6 through 8. Wasn't a great pilot. There were some concerns that we had with the math teachers in grades 6 through 8 with Eureka Math Squared. So what we've done is we reached out to the math coordinator at the Portsmouth School Department. I say coordinator, she's a coordinator for grades kindergarten through grade 8, Lindsay Principe. We met with her this past summer, had some 2 great sessions with her. We were moving towards Envision Savas Math, which is what Portsmouth Middle School is using in preparation for their students getting to Portsmouth High School. And early returns, again, we're only 2.5 months into it, talking to Ms. McLean and Ms. Paul, is that Envision gets our students to where they need to be. At this point in time, they feel very comfortable with it. They did not like Eureka Math Squared, for that pre-algebra class and the core curriculum class that 6 through 8 would be in. Obviously, Eureka Math Squared speaks for itself. Our students in grades, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6, some of the top scorers in the state. And our grade 7 finished in 5th place this past year. So it was a good sign. But again, I think they feel more comfortable with Envision. They feel as though it's going to get our students to where they need to be. Our next on the docket is social studies. So There will be, we're gonna say right there. There's gonna be a new social studies framework that is coming out beginning September 2026. So we have to push it out. This new framework was released earlier in this year. The new standards are grade level specific and are designed to be culturally responsive and inquiry based. Sounds like an IE term. The standards also include focus on developing critical thinking skills such as the ability to argue logically and that are evidence-based. And these new standards will be fully implemented in September of 2026. Basically what that means, currently right now, our students, I'm going to talk about 5 through 8. Our students in grades 5, 6, 7, 8, and right now following that framework. They're on top of it. Mr. Torres in 7 and 8, Ms. Gay in grade 6, and Miss Devlin in grade 5 are following those frameworks. In grade 6 and 7, they talk about exploring world history and geography. Grade 8 is civics and government and civic life. And that's a big push with the 8th graders. As you know, Mr. Torres has, in the past couple of years, has had lawyers and judges come in. This past year, he had Mr. Musham from town council come in to speak to our students. But also, it's just a great lead up to this. Mr. Torres and Ms. Giles, kind of on the cutting edge of it. We currently have McGraw-Hill book company, which kind of has the edge on the social studies curriculum in Rhode Island because their books are geared towards these new frameworks, and our students currently are using those books in the classroom. Science. So currently in grades 6 to 8, we're using a hybrid model for science curriculum. We're using a little bit of FOSS, and we're using a little bit of Carolina Open Science, Open Science Education. We are going to be moving towards Carolina Open Science Education over the next 2 years. We've been using it a little bit here and there with FOSS. This year, we've incorporated it into the first 2 units with science. Next year, we're looking to add 2 more units, and pretty much in grades 6 to 8, be a Carolina Open Science Education curriculum. Our students in grades 3 through 5 are still currently using the FOSS science. And finally, Spanish. Authentico is the new book that we're using. Mr. Belicia has been working with the Portsmouth High School Modern Language Department, Ms. Lynn Hogan. He was actually at their PD a couple of weeks ago with the Modern Language Department. And we're using this book called Authentico. It was originally the book that we were using. I think it's Vesimos was the book that we were using at the time. This book and what Ms. Hogan has talked about, the Spanish one still obviously has the Spanish language, grammar, vocabulary, so on and so forth. But a big push right now in Spanish one is the Spanish culture. And although it sounds like it's just one culture, it's really upwards of 15 different cultures within the Spanish language in the Spanish countries. So that's a big push right now with Spanish one, and that's something that Mr. Belicia is working on. And that covers our curriculum at this point in time.
Excellent.
It's all me.
Thank you for just being very thorough. Go ahead, Michael.
Jonathan, can you just put that back up for a second, please? Under the, what do you call it, envisions of us, that grades 6 through 8
Yep.
on for math.
Yep.
And how does that relate to the actual RICAS testing?
It doesn't, right, good question, Mike. No, it doesn't necessarily relate any better to RICAS. I mean, last year we were using Eureka Math Squared, and our 7th graders did score very well. However, Ms. Cole and Ms. McLean, our 2 math teachers in grades 6 and 7 and 8, don't feel as though it truly prepares the students particularly in that algebra, or pre-algebra grade 7 and algebra in grade 8, as they prepare, to go off to, Portsmouth High School. They didn't feel as though it touched on the topics in a different form that, again, they just didn't feel as though the students were best prepared leaving here. I do think the Envision, talking to this fall in particular, and this point, the program that Envision brings is obviously it's evidence-based, but it's also, I think the students have a better understanding, as they move along in those math topics, in both the algebra track and the grade level track, both sides of it.
So Portsmouth has been using this program, is from what you're,
Portsmouth Middle School, correct?
okay.
They, believe it or not, their Portsmouth Middle School and Elementary, I believe this is the first year they're using Eureka Math Squared. This is our second year of Eureka Math Squared with our students in K through 5. Portsmouth, we try to align so that, we're touching the same bases that they are, as we have back into the road for Portsmouth High School.
I'm just curious to how their results are, their RICAS testing is in the 8th grade in particular, if they've been using this program compared to ours, because we know our results have not been stellar.
Yeah, you know what? They started Envision. It's fairly new to them. I want to say last year, Mike, was their first year using it. I don't know what they used prior to that. I know the younger levels were using Eureka Math, not Eureka Math Squared, same company, same program, but this is kind of newer version of it. But Envision for grades 6 and 8 is fairly new at the Portsmouth Middle School. They might have a year on the belt more than we do. Lindsay Prince is the coordinator. And again, meeting with her this past summer, she felt the same way, that it better prepares the students for the rigors of high school.
Thank you.
Well,
And to piggyback on RICAS questions, thank you, Principal McKinnon. We're going to pivot over to Dr. Mitchell and the superintendent report, where she will be talking about our RICAS test scores and results.
Keep it brief. Hearing that some people at the table someone is timing me every time I speak.
3 minutes.
More than one of us, more than one of us.
Anyway, just a few slides. I do want to give a shout out to our students and staff. Excellent teaching, hands-on learning, robust student support services, high-quality curriculum materials, which are required by RIDE, engaged, supportive families and community members. All of these converge at highly effective schools that meet the needs of every child who walks through the doors. If a school also emerges as tops in the state in ELA and math and top 10 in science, then that is the icing on the cake. And that is what the community of Little Compton has in Wilbur and McMahon School. A highly responsive school that meets the needs of all kids. A staff that is absolutely extraordinary. And a community that is incredibly supported and invested, absolutely. So the numbers are one thing, but the holistic component of what this school offers children cannot be quantified. But we will go through the numbers anyway. That is our equity and excellence in education. That's our vision statement that the school improvement team created based on the International Baccalaureate Framework.
That's also on our website, correct?
Website, yep. And that's at RIDE. Next. Thank you, Jonathan. And so we have the top spots in the state, aggregate data. We do not disaggregate when there's a K-8 school. So the school is seen as a district, grades 3 through 8, 2 schools in one. So we are number one in the state in math and ELA, and we dropped a bit in our science ranking. But we also have to take into consideration that only 2 cohorts are tested in science. So that is the power of small numbers. Just grades 5 and 8 are tested using the NGSA, the Next Generation Science Assessment, based on the Next Generation Science Standards, which are the most rigorous science standards in the history of this country, and many states have adopted them. And we pretty much held our ground in ELA, and we had a big jump in math. So we might want to rethink some of our curriculum changes. Just kidding, Jack. Because curriculum is one thing, and all the curricula that we can purchase and implement, syncs with the learning standards. It's excellent teaching that gets us where we are in terms of proficiency rates. So we listened to our teachers. They wanted a change, and we gave them that change. Next. So as Jack McKinnon just stated, we're doing some lateral and vertical alignment with Portsmouth and getting in sync with their curriculum materials for the first time, I think, for them in forever, since maybe 24 years that our kids have been going there. And that has been working out well. It started last summer, and we will continue to do that. Proficiency rates are relative, obviously, when it comes to state testing. And of course, we want to see 100% in every single content area, but a 65.5% puts us as the highest district in the state when it comes to English, when it comes to mathematics. So pretty happy.
And the proficiency rate is students that test at or above.
Absolutely. Right. Meeting or exceeding.
Meeting or exceeding, correct.
A-level learning
This isn't, the
No.
state's collective scores, where I know some people, whether they're viewing at home or in the audience tonight, we're not getting a D here. We have 65% of our students
meeting or exceeding.
meeting or exceeding expectations. And do you delve into the numbers? I don't want to cut you off. No, please.
Yeah, we disaggregate all the time. And we disaggregate by grade level. We disaggregate by subgroups. But our sample is so low, our N value is so low that we never want to be able to extrapolate any of those subgroups in public in a small school like this. So 65.5% of our students are meeting or exceeding. And that is the highest rate in the state of Rhode Island in mathematics. And it puts us in really good standing with Massachusetts districts as well. And they have been teaching to MCAS, RICAS for 25 years. The state has been teaching to these learning standards for about 6. So it's going to take and we're gaining on them. State is gaining on Massachusetts. And what I did on the right is give you a visual of, where we are, so there are about 56, 57 LEAs, and Little Compton School Department is on the top.
And Lori, could you share with the audience what the average proficiency is for math for the entire state? I believe it's in the 30s.
It's pretty low.
It's pretty low. I'm not, I'm just using it as somewhat of a rubric. And Massachusetts is, I want to say, somewhere in the low 40s.
Yes.
So, okay.
Now, we're well above state proficiency rates. Next. I'm talking double. ELA, as Principal McKinnon spoke about earlier, one thing that was a data point that was kind of confusing and surprising is if you look at the bottom, the parenthetical sentence there, Wilbur McMahon School has a solid foundation in reading, but did not come in first in any grade level in writing. And so we definitely have, stuck the landing when it comes to reading instruction and learning. But when we broke that data down between reading and writing in that proficiency rate, in that score, we realized we have a way to go. And so our ELA coordinator, Jen Giles, immediately called RIDE, and they will be coming down to offer a calibration session, and they do that when school districts ask. So the written part is all about the written response. Some of them are short constructions, some of them are longer constructions. And our kids didn't struggle. Obviously, we have the highest proficiency rate in the state in ELA, but we see weakness there. And we're into continuously improving how we reach kids and get them prepared for high school and beyond. And RIDE answers the call. They're coming in January. So we hope to bring that rate up to the 70s.
You gotten any hate mail from Barrington?
Oh, but
I know you're happy about those numbers, Roger.
no, but we did crack the code, definitely. And Barrington has been, we've been nipping at their heels the past 3-4 years. Exceed. Last year, superintendent who retired, he and I are friends, and we sat on a lot of boards together. And I did needle him a few times, but come on, they had top standing for years, so it's our turn. And science. Science, like I said, we did drop a bit. We were higher than that in, last year, but we still did very well. We kind of stood our ground, stayed in the top 10, as our school should always be, at least in the top 10 and everything. That has always been the goal. And so you do see that even though, we're 10th, but there's a lot behind us. And so our science consultant, who lives in Little Compton, her name is Natalie Eliason. When I asked her to come in, I had no idea. She was a Little Compton resident. And she was working at EBEC as their top science consultant. And so she's really been a force multiplier, to use a scientific term, definitely when it comes to science instruction and curriculum changes. So she's definitely focusing on those pieces of the next generation science standards and the next generation science assessment that were sort of not missing, but not as robust and not as much as of a focus in the past. And one of those components is science notebooks. And there's sort of a kinesthetic learning component to students keeping a science notebook, writing, in their scientific journals and writing their observations and responses. And those skills are also tested. Our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are not going to be using a graphical modality. They'll be using a computer. They're going to be, they'll use digital notebooks because those also dovetail with their international baccalaureate process journals. So we're combining, the rigor of these new science standards with the rigor of the international baccalaureate framework for those science notebooks. And our little ones will continue with the K-5 with, the analog version, which does correlate with deeper learning when it comes to science. And our staff will continue to focus on anchor phenomena, shifting away from learning about something to students figuring out what or why something happens. And we will continue to support teachers in implementing the new programs. FOSS pathways, Jack. We need to qualify that. It's not just FOSS, it's FOSS pathways for K-5. And then the Carolina Open SciEd. So those are 2 new shifts. And each one is a 3-year rollout. So we're rolling out FOSS pathways over 3 years, starting this year, and rolling out Carolina Open SciEd. It's still FOSS, but FOSS pathways is kind of a deeper curriculum program, and Open SciEd. So in 3 years, we will have migrated totally over from FOSS to Open SciEd for 6th, 7th, and 8th, and K-5 from FOSS generic sort of to FOSS pathways. And they all qualify as the kind of curriculum that RIDE is demanding schools adopt. And what I printed out for Jack today is this list we have to submit our curriculum every year to RIDE. 6 years ago, when it didn't print out in color, but all of these are green. When I first started, very few were green. That means we were not using high quality curriculum materials. RIDE flipped the switch and made it a mandate and gave us drop dead dates. One was 2023, one was 2024. We implemented early, and we implemented, that was ELA math, and science we implemented early as well. And now they're all in the green. So the state is ensuring that they use Ed Reports as an arbiter of, how effective a certain curricula is. And so the migration hasn't been easy on teachers. It hasn't been easy on the budget. What I did was folded a lot of those expenses into ESSER 3. So that federal money during the pandemic converged with these mandates. And so we didn't feel the pinch because one was about $65,000. Thank you, ARPA funds. So, yeah, we get lemons, you make lemonade, and the proof is in the pudding. I'm just mixing a lot of metaphors here. Our little school is top in the state. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Teachers, families, students, administrators, it's really a group effort. I will share that I had a data scientist friend of mine reach out who sends their children to this school out of district. And he got the RICAS information and compared it to Massachusetts. And our third through 8 is what is tested. And when comparing that, we'd be in the top 10% of schools in Massachusetts. And he said what really stood out to him is our younger cohort, our 3rd to 5th grade, would be in a top 10 school in Massachusetts, let alone the state of Rhode Island. So while our scores are solid, we see that, I think we can, I'm not in this arena, but if I'm somebody that's at home, our 4th graders who were 8th graders last year, they were 4th graders in 2020 when COVID hit, and we pulled the plug on them. And they didn't really get that familiarity of what test taking is like. They got thrown into virtual learning. They got thrown into, satellite learning, not being hands-on. And they really did meet the bill. That being said, our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders who were maybe in kindergarten, pre-K during COVID, they're now getting into the ability to take these tests. And we're seeing that because there's no lapse and they're getting the hands-on curriculum that we provide here at Wilbur, we're really seeing them not only meet, but exceed expectation. I saw one of our grades was at like 90% for ELA. And that's 9 out of 10 kids. I'm the one kid that's not hitting that based on what I know about myself. So I'm just incredibly impressed with not only the students' resilience in the older grades, but then to see what we do as a school, as teachers, as families, and see that our younger kids, when given the opportunity to not miss and, have a pandemic interrupt them, they really not only meet, but exceed the expectation. So I'm excited to see where this goes. As a parent, I'm absolutely thrilled to hear you say these scores are great, but we can get better. That's the athlete in me. Even when you win the championship, it's like, what can we improve upon? How can we get better next year? So I'm very excited to hear those words come out of your mouth. I'm excited to hear that you reached out to RIDE and they were happy to come down here and not say, oh, you guys are first, we got other fish to fry. I don't know how many other schools are reaching out, but I feel very well supported by them in terms of getting us over the threshold with our writing.
And if I may, the proficiency rates across the board are about 30% ELA math and science
For the state.
And I do share, and I have shared with our staff, all the disaggregated data, the proficiency rates by grade level, and also rankings. Is it something, each grade level's ranked? This is a collaborative art, running a school. So when I look at it and I disaggregate it, yeah, it talks, it does, data does speak. But it's not important. That's how I feel. It's an internal report that I create and share. But as far as I'm concerned, every single grade level knocked it out of the park this year. Absolutely. And we all know that proficiency rates sort of drop as adolescence sort of peaks, so, and so those early elementary grades are just, they're through the roof. And the proficiency rates are 71, 81, 70, 78, 85, 80, they're amazing. But our sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, our sixth grade math is number one in the state. That is rare. I was a middle school principal, and to move the needle in sixth grade is crazy. But every single grade level in every content area, I couldn't be happier as an educational leader and as the colleague of the best staff in the state and the best principal in the state.
You're here.
Hands down.
You're here. All parts of that. Thank you all. Mark, do you guys have any comments or questions for
No,
Lori or
at this time,
administrators?
just congratulations, Mr. McKinnon. Great work.
Yeah.
Everyone. I just hopped on, but I mean, wow.
Lori and Travis talk about it. Travis, get to know that there's always been improvement.
Yes,
Writing,
and we're working on it. Every slide has our plan for improvement.
It's just, I just feel so well supported by our families, by our administration, by our staff, and certainly the students. They're the ones that have to come to school. I know I didn't always look forward to every day of school, and it seems as though the vast majority of our kids do, and they're not only meeting, but exceeding expectations. So it's a really great place to send your child to school. It's a great community to live in, and I'm happy to be a small part of it. But thank you all. Boy, you got a tough act to follow, Mr. McNamee. You should have probably led with the finances.
Probably should have.
Please go right ahead with our financial review, 2024-25.
We've completed 4 months out of the year, essentially 2 months out of the school year, of the 10-month school year. So things are starting to come together in terms of where we're going to project the year end to be. On the revenue side, we're looking at certainly a little bump in our tuition revenue. We've got about 10 extra students at this point in time. So we're anticipating we're going to be up over budget on the tuition side. We are up a little bit on our state aid, about $8,000 or $9,000 based on the budget. That'll probably be reduced next year because the state's got to make up $400 million, but it's not as significant an impact on this district as it will be on others. So on the expense side, I'm not seeing a lot of issues. We're still looking at our out-of-district tuition. There is some potential there that could be over budget. We're looking at not only our CTE programs, but also in our special education out of district. I'm also seeing a little bit of a bump on our maintenance in the building. There's some fire alarm expenditures that weren't budgeted for, so I'm seeing a little bit of a bump in that. So at this point, a conservative projection would be roughly about $50,000 deficit for FY 25, excuse me. And, but it's still really early in the game. I mean, there are certain budget areas, for example, on the electricity, we just got in the credits for some of the virtual net metering, but we haven't got the invoices from the energy supply from Warren that's supplying us that. So I probably over the next couple of months, I'll have a better handle on what that impact's going to be. Plus we'll have the solo working its way in as well too. So we'll see some benefits from there. So I've got about 50 or 60,000 budgeted in for electricity. So we could see some savings in that area too. So although I'm projecting 50,000, I'm hoping that we could probably get closer to break even by the time we end the year.
And what are we projecting on solar cost savings monthly? Upwards of $9,000 a month?
Well,
70% over the course of the year.
yeah, it certainly it'll fluctuate because you're gonna generate correctly a little bit more so in certain times of the year than not.
That being said, how are we storing the solar that's captured in the summer? Or are we just can we directly funnel that back? We're just funneling that back, or is that funneled to the municipal buildings at this?
It's going back to Rhode Island Energy. Yep.
Okay, so until we have storage batteries, we won't be able to capture it. I mean, it's an indirect, but I'm saying if we did have storage batteries on the backside of these facilities up Celebrity Row, as I call it, the Grange, Town Hall, Community Center, if they had storage batteries or ourselves had storage batteries, we'd be able to power it into there and then generate it into these municipal buildings directly rather than give it back to Rhode Island Energy and then pay the transmission fee, because that's where they're going to get us. I mean, even if we have the credits as a municipality, our draw is, you know what I mean? The transmission cost, I mean, if you look at your electric bill, your transmission cost is now more expensive than the electricity itself. So, I mean, I don't know if that's probably a question for Tony and the council, but nonetheless, it should be something that we're kind of thinking about.
We're still on finances, so I can sort of, but we're fully functional now. We are we're one of 14 schools in the state. A few of them are public. But we'll never be net zero because 70% over the course of the year, will be generated by us. There'll always be, the 30% of electricity that, we're not generating enough. We didn't, we've used every single available roof pitch and membrane and all these different components up there. And also the demand, you get hit with demand charges as well. So maybe someday could maybe add a canopy out there with the new parking lot and get closer to net zero, but at least it's 70%. Are we sending something out to the public with some drone footage and some really nice visuals? But we're saving a lot of money.
100%. And Jonathan told me on the way in, Jonathan, do you want to articulate what you shared with me regarding, anybody that comes into this building can absolutely just,
So
if they're curious, they can.
It actually looks like for the rest of the screen.
Mhm.
Well, one of the monitors in the main entrance now displays a live feed of what the solar array is generating in real time, but also a history of what it has been. So you see something similar, in a little bit under a week. It was a week ago today, I think it was turned on.
Yeah.
So around noon, 1 o'clock maybe, but in that time, we've generated 3.5 megawatts of electricity, which is pretty impressive.
I think we could also get close to net zero with backup batteries. So for example, my home doesn't run off the grid now that the sun is down. Sun comes up, charges the battery, powers the house. If there is greater demand, sure, I would pull, but in my case, I'm net zero because I charge the battery, sun goes down, and then my major, my heater, the main level of our home. I mean, I suppose if I'm having like a huge party on the outside, it wouldn't be, but nonetheless, that backup, it pulls from the battery rather than pulling from the grid. So, I mean, in the future with a canopy.
Start, yes.
I'm just talking out loud here, putting ideas in this guy's head.
Well, I mean, when we look at some of the HVAC we do here, it'll be electric. So you're going to generate, you're going to be having some more usage. But I think between the virtual net metering and the solar, we should be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, it'd be a considerable offset.
Plus, you're going to be saving that money on fuel oil as well.
Yes.
We also might add the module for real-time analysis of how much we're pulling, not just how much we're generating, but how much energy we're pulling from. That's a separate module.
Possible to put this information also up on our website. So if somebody was just uber curious and.
Probably do a little widget somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a bit of a. just putting it out there. The more transparency we have regarding the projects that was supported by the entire community, the better for the outcomes of future projects.
Fantastic project that ran very smoothly. Let me just go back to that beautiful shot, the drone shot.
And then certainly thank you to everybody that contributed. The engineers, the roof engineers, the Newport Renewables, the fire department, the folks that are in this building. I know Chris Osborne and his team.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been, and then also all the parents that, you know, we made the pivot. Instead of picking up on the back side of the building, we've been picking up on the side of the building by the playground, which isn't bad, except Duke's getting very good at negotiating playground time after school. And I'm not getting very good at saying no, so anytime you want to flip it back, feel free.
It was a project.
But nonetheless, it's great to see that, you know, this was voted on at the financial town meeting of 2023. And we came to fruition, I want to say early in May. We had a change order in here in which the school committee supported to reinsure that the roof warranty wasn't voided. And here we are in November and we are capturing power. So
Cool.
yeah, kudos to everybody involved. Really great project. Go ahead, Michael.
Just so we want to clear on this, is that this system is going to capture or cover 70% of our electric bill. The system that's on the roof only, correct?
Yes, that is what's due.
70% of our usage.
Yeah.
70% of the usage. And how does Warren come into play with the extra 30%?
So we're going to get, our electric bills virtually will see a credit for a certain number of kilowatt hours on the invoice. So what we have to measure is that if we go over the total amount that we would use and what the solar is generating, we may be in a position where we'd have to allocate more of what we're getting to, let's say, the town building. Because town hall is probably going to be using more electricity than what we initially thought, because they've got unit ventilator heaters in there now. And so we can kind of shift that off. So we're going to monitor that. And basically what we would do is lay off some of that to other town buildings.
How much of a reserve are we allowed to keep up above the 100% of usage? Do we know?
I'm not sure what that is. Yeah, I'm in the process now of getting some information, because we have to file well, the town has to file a tax return to get the investment tax credit back under the Infrastructure Tax Act. So I've got to get some information on the system, what it's going to generate, and so we're going to take a look at that. I think we have some projections on what they thought it was going to generate, but we'll also have to look at what the virtual net metering is going to generate as well, townwide.
And that virtual net metering, that's with the council approved plan from Warren.
Yeah, that was a 10-year agreement.
Yes.
With the green energy. So basically, you've got that facility in Warren, which is generating electricity through green energy. I think it's a solar farm that's there.
Correct.
So, and then they basically are selling that power to municipalities and school districts at, in our case, we've got a 35% discount. So we're buying it for 65% of what they would normally sell it for.
So our remaining 30% that wouldn't be covered by this building is at a cost of 65 cents on the dollar rather than dollar for dollar.
Correct.
For the net metering.
Yeah.
It's good to know for now. Hopefully we can hopefully approve upon that, but that's fantastic. Thank you to the council for being diligent on that. All is rolling, baby. Good job. Okay. Subcommittee reports, policy subcommittee meeting. Ms. Hannah is not here. And I don't believe we had met for a policy subcommittee meeting since you would have known if we had met.
Never met.
I'm just being sure I didn't see, I don't believe we have met for a policy subcommittee meeting. I know all of our policies, the last discussed with Sean was we are up to par. Portsmouth School Committee Liaison Report. All right, I have a little bit of stuff here. Just real quick on the budget. Portsmouth is definitely scrambling. They're looking at like, they're having conversations we don't have to have, which I'm very fortunate about. So even you saying we might lose that $8,000, $9,000 in state aid that we're getting a bump in. I mean, they're talking about not fulfilling the needs where there are needs, whether it be teachers or equipment or extracurricular activities. And then they had a pension issue that was a $250,000 hit. So I'm just very fortunate financially. Little Compton seems to be in a good spot. As for Portsmouth, I do want to touch on this because we do have a lot of support staff in the building. And I want to say it was late September, early October, their head custodian was outside and didn't know he was allergic to stings. He was stung and he started to have a reaction. At that point, Anthony D'Alessandro and Keith Corey, who are staff, Anthony is with the custodial crew. Keith Corey is the athletic director. They saw him on outside. So I'm saying that to say this: if you see something, say something. Just don't assume, oh, Jonathan's taking a lap outside, he'll be fine. If Jonathan's not back in a few minutes, follow up with that. They were able to act accordingly. Officer William Silva came by. They made the call. The EpiPen was on his way. Officer Silva made the assessment that if he needs to make something happen. He runs to his car. He comes back, gives him the EpiPen. Long story short, they get into the hospital and the doctors say, if you didn't give him this EpiPen, he probably wouldn't have made it. So kudos to their staff. That was a really great story. They honored them at the last school committee meeting. I thought that was a scary moment, but certainly awesome that everybody, see something, say something, do something. It was in action. The National Merit Scholarships, there's about 1.3 million juniors nationwide, and they honor the top 3% of scores. Mark Cello Vila was not only in this top 3%, but he also got the National Hispanic Award. And then there's the Merit Scholarships, which are the top 1%. And we have 3 qualifying Portsmouth students, Kiara Daly, Kelsey Smith, and Elena Sun, that are in this top 1% of PSAT scores or merit scholarship scores for the entire country. And they will get to possibly go on to realize a full ride scholarship. They had their Spirit Week in October. Homecoming went off without a hitch. The seniors won Spirit Week overall. The sophomores won the hallway. The SATs for this fall session have been taken. The PSATs will be coming up in the weeks ahead. Their partnership with Johnson & Wales has begun. So our students our Portsmouth High School students go to Johnson & Wales. They have questions, concerns, comments about what it looks like to move on to secondary education. And they have a great partnership there. They also do that with Roger Williams. Project Close Up is a group that takes on civic, I would say civic responsibilities. They just want to be involved with government outcomes, community-based organizations, and they will be going to the DC inauguration. They're looking forward to that. There were multiple band competitions. The student, she couldn't elaborate on the scores, but our band got a 74 in one of the competitions. And then they had a follow-up competition, which took place prior to or following the meeting. I don't have the final score on that. There is a group of students that is starting a pep band, which will be for not only basketball, but all fall and winter sports, all winter sports. The school play this year is the Solve It Squad. It's a comedic play, and they will start doing they will start auditions for that in the coming weeks. The play will take place in the spring. Now to the meat and potatoes of academics. Our CTE programs, when I first started going to these school committee meetings, it was just after COVID. It seemed like they were trying to get the CTE ball rolling. We now have statewide, there has been a 145% increase in CTE programs. So we're really setting up these kids to not only pursue education beyond high school, but also career and technical, whatever they choose. It came up, why doesn't Portsmouth have, culinary? What Portsmouth is trying to do is if there is especially being on the island, Newport has culinary. They're trying to focus on programs that are not available in neighboring districts where their students could then pursue them in high school. So we are pursuing continued things in science, continued criminal justice, continued film and theater, those types of things where students can really get hands-on experience. Of the 786 total students enrolled at Portsmouth High School, 276 of them are enrolled, roughly 35% in CTE programs. Another one is the Department of Defense Education activity. They received a grant for, I want to say, $500,000 in the coming years, which will bridge that gap and give those students a good idea of what it would be like to serve for the country. In a bureaucratic capacity. The AP, Portsmouth High School is an AP Gold Medalist recipient for AP education and test taking. 2/3 of our students at Portsmouth High School take AP. 53% of them score 3 or better. 80% of that 53% are above efficiency. So I think that speaks to what's going on there. They all, apparently last year, only 3 students opted out of taking the test. I don't know if it's a mandate. There was some talk of how that's worded in the policy, but if you take an AP class, you're supposed to take the AP test. It absolves you from taking the final in that particular course load, and then you take those credits and you can go on to take them to college with you. What else do I have? The final piece was Portsmouth as a community, they're having robust conversations regarding cell phone policy. And school committee members went into the schools. And I can tell you this, while there is, and I think even on this panel, folks that are very aware of this is needs to be used as a tool and not a toy. The feedback from even those that are very gung-ho about putting in a policy, they said that they saw no use at the middle school and elementary levels. So much so that at the middle school levels at lunch, they play cards. The concern really became in high school with downtime, i.e. Lunchtime. If your friends aren't in lunch with you, they did see students scrolling on the TikTok, on Facebook, Instagram, whatever it may be. And then also study halls where there's not the enforcement. I know that this committee has talked about reviewing that type of policy. A few things came up. Students that have IEPs sometimes are granted applications that have usage on the cell phone. There was talk about how we can get that onto the MacBook or the Pro, what is this called? The Surface Pro? The Chromebook. Thank you. I apologize. And then another thing that came up was, we asked our students we asked a lot of our teachers and administrators, and then to not only come up with a policy, but how is that policy enforced uniformly across all classrooms and consequences enforced across all classrooms. So I say all that to say this, they are working on it. It was a robust conversation. They had about an hour and a half subcommittee meeting regarding the policy. The discussion, if you want to follow up on the 10-15 Portsmouth School Committee meeting, I want to say it was about an hour of, whether it's stated studies, whether it's concerns, what does it look like? All stakeholders, teachers spoke, Dr. Kenworthy spoke, school committee members spoke, parents spoke. I don't believe any students spoke at this point. But nonetheless, it is something that is on the radar. And I'm happy to say that the feedback from the school committee on them saying when they went to the middle schools that there was no use, which shocked them. I think it really speaks to the parenting. We talked about, how we have the support of the staff and administrators and the teachers and the students in the school. But we also have our community and our families. I think, I'm happy to say it on Duke will not have a cell phone until he's in high school. And then more importantly, I think technology is changing so fast that I think cell phones may be obsolete for young people before 2028. So that being said, I would like to hold off on us exploring a policy until they kind of set a precedent to kind of piggyback what Principal McKinnon said with regards to our curriculums. I would like, if we are going to enforce a policy, for it to be uniform with what Portsmouth's expectations are, so we're not setting our kids up for failure or, empowering them to have this tool available to them prior to marrying up with Portsmouth in high school. So
I can say that, at our level, you don't see it obviously at the elementary level. There are one or two that do have it. It's usually around grade 6, 7, 8. And what we've asked them, if they know they're not allowed, we asked them, we don't even want to see them swearing in the pocket because we know that there's codes that are out there that they use so they can all meet up. Because I see it from my office every day, and the kids have been excellent.
Yeah.
We don't even see it on that person. They keep
No.
it in the locker, so that's been good.
I really encourage, regardless of how you feel about this, the information they laid out from all aspects of it, from, simple deterrence to what does it look like to, what if your kid has a need? What if they're a diabetic and they're checking their blood? I mean, they talked about everything. So it was very informative to me. I'm sharing what I heard. So you all can do your own research and diligence. But it was a very robust conversation and certainly something that, as a parent, it perked my attention. That's it for the Portsmouth School Committee.
Is it possible to ask a point of clarification? Please. That makes me confused. Kids in this school are not allowed to have cell phones, correct?
No,
Right.
but they have.
I know that, but they're not allowed to use them.
They're not allowed to.
Okay, no, there is a policy. I was confused by Travis's statement. There is currently a policy in place?
I
It
don't.
says no electronics.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's very general. It's as this
the
board.
handbook. It's in the handbook, John.
And that's
Cell phones,
Yeah.
electronic devices.
There's no issue here.
correct. So that was that. And Dr. Kenworthy did say one thing, because it did come up in terms of photographing in areas that are possibly private. And he said that the signs have already been ordered. They're posted out, they'll be posted outside of the bathrooms or inside of the bathrooms, that regardless of whether it's a cell phone or a digital camera, there's no photography in the bathrooms of any school. So I don't know if that's something that we could pursue that just kind of absolves us from any legal ramifications. But it just seemed to be something that gave him no concern in terms of implementing it without a policy.
Kids good.
High school is a different animal.
High school, we've both worked on the high school level for years. Yes, high school is a whole.
It made references to a lot of different districts too: South Kingston, East Greenwich, Barrington, Port Providence. And as you know, it's not a one shoe fits all. So, all right, moving on. Item 7.3, the Wellness Committee report. Ms. Zuccanini.
There's nothing to report, and the next meeting is on December 5th. 3:30. As always, everyone's welcome.
3:30. What is that, Tuesday?
It's a Thursday.
Thursday, my bad. Yeah, the 7th is a Saturday. My apologies. And item 7.4, the Town Recreation Committee liaison report. Mr. Michael Rocha.
There's two things that came up. We are in the process of looking at a new sign to be placed at Veterans Field. This has been being worked on for a while. They want to add a bulletin board to that for an area to leave for signage for events that may be coming up, that people can actually be able to post their own events. This is to include the soccer field, tennis courts, baseball fields, and the actual Veterans Field parking lot area as well. The second thing was that the town council had asked to come up with an idea to help disguise the current porta johns that are there now. And the recommendation is going back to them to actually build fencing on 3 sides so that the porta johns are not as visible. And our next meeting is on November 25th, and it will be at the town council chambers.
That's a Monday, correct?
That's correct.
What time is that at, Michael?
6:30.
All right, down to action items. I'm tentative to approve a school committee schedule of meetings without the new members here. So unless there is, do we have to have this in tonight, Jennifer? No? I would like to table this item until we have our full new delegation in place. And then we can have a robust discussion about concerns. I know last year, me and Michael had some dates that were conflicting for us, but nonetheless, I do not want to not include Ms. Sue Chase and Ms. Amy Gleischer in that conversation. So I will consider, do I even need to consider a motion to table
If there's no objection from the committee, you can just simply table. If you'd like a motion, you can do that.
it? Objection from the committee? We will simply table it. And then the final item, Lori, if you would like to bring us up to speed, consider, discuss, and vote to approve the PFAS consulting services contract. I know we talked about this at the October meeting regarding the grant and our needing to update our water filtration system to ensure that we're below 4 parts per million. Is it really brilliant?
Yeah. And so, as you know, we are, we're in compliance based on current EPA regulations, but that will change. Right now, it's 20 parts per trillion. We're at 6. In 2029, that number will go down to 4. And so there's a tranche of monies from the feds, the EPA, for small water systems, and that includes our own. Right now, we are a water system that just has a delivery system. We will be a water system that will also have a treatment plant. I use that term, so, it's going to be relatively small, but it will be, it will require another license, et cetera, from our operator, Chris Osborne Jr. And we have been apportioned $550,000 for a grant, not a loan, a grant. And that includes monies for technical assistance in writing the grant, because you have to be a chemical engineer to write this grant. And so we have engaged with Haley Aldrich, one of the top emerging contaminants companies in the country, based out of Portland, Oregon, with offices everywhere. Today, we were on a call, and we had some of the engineers were in Philadelphia, another one was in Boston, one was in Portland. And so the grant will pay for technical support, technical assistance. The contract that you are voting to approve my signing is not finished yet. It is in the hands of our lawyers right now. It's gone back and forth over the weekend. Thank you. Everyone was working over the weekend, including Sean and one of the operators of the water system. And so it's gone back and forth. There's not a lot of points of contention at all. So I think we'll have a fresh copy soon.
Yes.
And it's just, they're legal. And as you know, we want to meet that December 12th deadline, because the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank meets shortly thereafter. We want to submit and get this funding locked down. And we also have to go before the town council in a week or so. That's another piece of documentation that we need for the infrastructure bank, where we'll be asking the town that owns the water system and we operate for them. We'll be asking for their approval for our submitting the grant and being the fiscal agent for the grant, because it is the town's water system. So this is the first part of it. The technical component will cost about $50,000, and it will include.
And it's covered by the grant?
Covered by the grant.
Making sure.
They'll include, they will draft the proposal, including budget for application preparation as a separate task, initial cost estimate for grant application within 1 to 2 weeks. Scoping considerations include cost of design and construction of the system, and O&M, operations and maintenance manual, possible relocation, installation of a new well. We're not quite sure about that. Additional water quality testing is needed. And it's going to also include appendices. One, suss out annual costs, additional costs to the district and the town for this water treatment system. And so right now, our costs are just, plumbing, support, et cetera, and 4 charcoal filters that service our 3,000 gallon tank. And also, upgrades every now and then to our pressurized booster system. And so the costs of running our water system right now, four charcoal, filters that are swapped out quarterly, and some maintenance from our plumber. This is going to be more costly because the contaminant will be contained and it will have to be hauled away. It'll be, toxic waste. So there's so much going on here. It is odd for superintendent and a head custodian to be running a town's water system, but, Chris has been doing it for years, and my predecessors and I have as well. You might want to, think farther afield with maybe some more town collaboration support. But this is big. And so the first step is getting that application completed, and also the documentation from the town council for the December 12th deadline. And landing that $500,000 to support the construction of the.
Correct. And as you stated, us approving this tonight is covered by the grant, as well as the implementation of this system that provides water to not only this building, but all the municipal buildings on this.
Maintenance barn, Oddfellows Hall, Community Center, and Town Hall. Obviously, we pull the most.
No, I understand. It's in our facility and we have that working relationship with the town and how that is worded.
So we have a simple system, which will definitely be transformed into a complex system.
So this is an application that you're looking for us to give you the go-ahead to sign for $50,000, which is covered by the grant.
Yes.
I understand that.
Right,
This is strictly the application process only.
right. Technical support to spec out, well, they have to come down, the engineers, and check out our system, every single component from the wellhead and everything around it. And it's not far from here. And check out our booster system, check out all of our analyses that Rido sends us quarterly, pages of reports on, nitrate, that, fecal coliform, all that stuff. We're negative for all of
No,
that.
I know that.
Because,
We wouldn't be open if we don't.
about 4 years ago, we did have the EPA come in with another grant and, really help us come up with the first ever O&M. And that has resulted in, aside from the cautionary boil order from the pressure boosters dropping during the solar installation, we've had no off readings, and this building had several a year in the past. So this system is really good. It's going to be better than ever. But this is a complicated process, Mike, and we're out of our depth. There's no one in town who could.
Just to be devil's advocate too, I know you said at the October meeting that the grant is for up to $550,000. At this juncture, while I know that you're not an expert and can't speak to it, does the engineer themselves, have they expressed that it could exceed that number? Because one of the reasons why I had a long look on my face, and then you said, and there's a grant, raise big. Because this is like, what are you talking about? We are at 6, we need to go to 4, we're mandated to do so.
So as part of the application, they're gonna come in, they're gonna design the system, they're gonna price it out. They're also gonna give us a summary of what the operation and maintenance expenses will be going forward. So in no case will we move forward with it if it's gonna cost any additional funds. And they're pretty confident that the money that they're gonna award us will be more than sufficient to do what we want to do. The other thing that this is going to do is give us another source of electricity out there, so that in the event that something happens to the building, the water system can still operate.
Yes.
So how do we know that there's going to be a backup power system put into the specs that are gonna be written by the engineers.
We told them today.
I directed
and
that
they-
today.
They agreed to it,
They
yeah.
agreed to it.
Yeah.
They think it's a good idea.
So that would be,
Two birds with one stone.
Yeah, because that was the concern this
That was
summer
the-
when we powered down, we lost the water pressure, then we had to go through the whole rigmarole of getting the Department
course,
of Health in
yeah.
here and also shutting down the water to the other buildings that were in operation. All right, I will consider a motion to approve the PFAS consulting services contract, which is in the works and will be signed by Lori and presented to the town council prior to December 12th. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the PFAS consulting service contract.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, we'll vote via roll call, Jennifer.
Travis Audi,
Aye.
Mark Leisure,
Aye.
Susan Kinane, Mike Rocha.
Excellent. The motion carries 4-0. I know that you will both, or all, I mean, Sean's involved with this too, with their legal team. Keep us apprised to,
Absolutely.
as this moves forward, and just as we talked about, we're concerned about costs. We're thrilled that there's a grant behind it, but we don't want to wake up with, actually, it was going to be, but now it's, those kind of conversations.
We do not want that, and we will avoid it at all costs.
Item 8.3, does any school committee members have requests for information from administration and or legal counsel?
I do.
Go ahead, Michael.
I received a phone call today and just wanted clarification on, we were paying for after-school library staffing at Portsmouth.
Yes.
Is that still in place?
Yes.
And what are the hours supposed to be for that, please?
2 to 5.
Is that in the regular library?
Yes.
Because this parent student was asked to leave at 2:30 today from the library. So what do we,
I can't answer. I don't know what.
no, I know, I'm making you aware of this. So the question is if we're paying for a service for staff and for our students, why is our student being asked to leave at 2:30?
I get a report every Monday without fail, and all of the numbers are there, and how many Little Compton kids and how many Portsmouth kids.
Just follow up, see if there was an issue. I know that there's whooping cough going around over there.
Okay.
So I don't know if that was a shutdown reason, but nonetheless, as Michael shared, if we're paying for the service, we should absolutely be receiving the service and or credits if we're not going to be receiving the service on certain days that we are unprivy to.
I mean, I get these every single Monday.
Well, they bill us daily as well too, so I can check a look
Yeah.
at the invoice to make sure they bill us.
Thank you for
quarterly,
Think-
that diligence.
Yeah, I don't see any lapses.
Any other requests from school committee members for administration or legal counsel? If not, I will consider a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion?
Motion that we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Speech.
Good, Travis, beat you.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.